And welcome back to the Hot Lap. We are talking upgrades and suspicions. What are those suspicions? Well, Red Bull suspicions, as in Christian Horner suspects some teams are flexing their wings a bit too much. Slightly ironic because that was at Red Bull from 2010 to 2013. Although Red Bull, the tests were done, they always passed, which is seemingly what's happening to the teams at the moment. We are talking upgrades, Ferrari upgrades as well. 99% chance of having a major upgrade coming into the Spanish Grand Prix. Also, quite significant RB upgrades, and Sauber also have one too. So, let's get into this. Let's then get into the suspicions by Christian Horner. Are they unfounded? Some people have suggested sour grapes. I don't think so. This is the kind of thing in Formula One that happens all the time. Fingers are pointed. People say, oh my gosh, no, I possibly couldn't have. So Red Bull are suspicious of, it's essentially looking at Ferrari and McLaren's front wings. And pray tell, these are the two teams that have caught Red Bull. Arguably surpassed them if you're looking at Monaco and even at Miami. So the last few months, as we know, it's been increasingly tough for the Red Bull team. Now, although a certain Max Verstappen has been absolutely dominating at the beginning of the season, and he does, to be fair to him, continue to win these races. So fair play to Max. Red Bull are leading both at championship, although their Constructors' Championship may well be under question by the end of the year, but the finger there points potentially to Perez to pull his finger out and do something. So Red Bull are finding it harder to fend off Ferrari and McLaren. That much is absolutely true. I think you can agree with me there. So before the season began, there was some controversy surrounding the Mercedes front wing. Now, as you know, the W15, it made its debut in pre-season testing with which was quite a unique front wing design. Now, Mercedes had already been given the green light from the FIA. There were still question marks down the grid. However, the team failed to perform, and I guess when they're not fast, no one's going to really say anything. But of course, with Mercedes now showing after Canada, what was their strongest performance to date this year, this relaxed attitude about wings are changing. The Silver Arrows, though, they're not the only team to be under Red Bull's microscope. Yes, the eye of Sauron of Milton Keynes has its eye firmly fixed on Maranello and Woking, a la Ferrari and McLaren. So at the beginning of last year, Aston Martin was forced to change their front wing because of its flexing mid-flap, and that a lot of people suggested that ultimately hurt Aston Martin. They weren't really the same in the season ever again. But whilst all front wings are subject to the stationary test by the FIA weights on the front wing to see if they flex, it is possible for the teams to pass the static tests while still retaining some movement on the flying laps. This is beneficial for performance. So it's understood that Red Bull turned to Lawrence Stroll's team, Aston Martin, to officially protest the issue. However, Aston Martin have declined this invitation. Is that because they're developing their own one? Who knows? But of course, the issue is it's not going to go away anytime soon. It's probably going to be a feature coming to the Spanish Grand Prix. Christian Horner is going to continue, running his mouth as he should if he feels that people are cheating. We've seen Toto Wolff do it. We've seen other people do it as well. So, why not? But the reigning champions are almost certainly going to keep their suspicions for the foreseeable future. What ultimately matters at the end is whether the FIA actually finds any of these teams in violation of the rules, and there's no evidence that this is the case for now. I think Lando Norris's car most recently was tested by the FIA. What this saga does potentially demonstrate is the rising intensity from the top teams. Red Bull, have they finally been caught up? I think Spain will show us whether that very much is the case of Red Bull being caught up. And that's going to be, for me, I think that is going to be ultimately very, very interesting. And speaking of interesting, one of Red Bull's biggest rivals, Ferrari, they have a 99% chance of a aerodynamic package being fast-tracked to the Spanish Grand Prix. So Ferrari introduced their first big upgrade at Imola and had intended to bring the second package to the British Grand Prix in 2 races time, giving them time to evaluate the first. But they've been working 24/7 to bring these upgrades to the Spanish Grand Prix. So having made inroads into Red Bull's advantage with those Imola upgrades, so much so that Leclerc's Monaco's victory, afterwards people were talking about Ferrari and their potential title. However, that fizzled out a tiny bit in Canada, could come back in Spain, who knows. But the Italian publication according to Formula Uno. It claims Ferrari's technical office has approved the second aerodynamic package, which will be significantly brought forward to Spain. In Maranello, it says they are literally working 24/7 to introduce new elements to the car. The goal is to have a floor that will see an updated area to improve at low speeds, stating there's a 99% chance that both drivers will have new specifications available come Friday practice. Oh, mouth-watering. I mean, once again, I can't say any differently. So much is going to ride going into Spain on how good the other teams are, how good Red Bull is, to see if we even have a championship. I think we got a Constructors' Championship on, but to see even if there is a Drivers' Championship, Max does have a really sizable lead. However, we still have what would be a normal season amount of races left if you were living in 98 and 99, so you never know. So Danny Ricciardo and Yuki Tsunoda are going to get a major RB aerodynamic upgrade for the Spanish Grand Prix. Yes, upgrades. They're going to benefit from an extensive upgrade to their RB01. And it's the team are going to bring a significant amount of work, it's been said, was put in at Faenza to prepare and deliver an aerodynamic update, and importantly, floor, bodywork and rear wing for both cars to provide a measurable amount of performance. And they were doing quite well. I mean, Danny Ricciardo did really well in Canada. He did outshine Yuki Tsunoda a tiny bit. And now, as a result of this update, the Friday sessions are going to be busy in order to gather and process as much data as possible and get ready for Saturday onwards. Luckily, they do have a lot of data for Spain because it used to be one of the testing tracks. As we know, RB lies 6th in the championship, 30 points behind their next rival, Aston Martin, and they lost 10 points to them in Canada. Ricciardo did have a good outing, and Tsunoda's been doing really, really solid. You could even make an argument that that's a better driving pairing at the moment than Alonso and Stroll, because of Stroll. In Canada, at least, I think Danny Ricciardo was looking quite good. And if they can both do it at the same weekend, maybe that statement could ring true. So let's quickly then talk about Sauber, who are also having an upgrade. And as you know, the season so far has not been particularly kind to the once former BMW team, but now the Sauber team. Before that, it was the Alfa Romeo team. Now, the team currently lies 10th and last in the World Championship, and they haven't even scored a point, which is surprising because we've seen both Saubers in the points. The C44 has been the slowest car in qualifying in the last 4 races. You're talking Miami, Imola, Monaco and Montreal. And that's not to say Bottas and Zhou have been stranded in 19th and 20th, but every other team have had at least one of its cars ahead on the grid on all of those weekends. And they're now gearing up, obviously, for Audi coming into Formula 1. Having said that, they're rumoured to be having an upgrade. And they said, first of all, we decided to change the rear wing ahead of the race in order to go for the wet setup. And that was in Canada. And they're thinking the choice was correct. And they were struggling with the warm-up of their tyres. And they've also said we need to work on the performance of the car because in both wet and dry conditions, we just don't have enough to fight for the points. We are not happy. They quite clearly say they're not happy. They're going to have to recover the gap and improve. And now in Montreal, they did have that new rear wing for medium low downforce levels with what's been called a new concept. And they've also had some other parts on the car, a new lower beam wing and other stuff. So it's going to be interesting coming into Spain how they do. Are they still going to be on the back of the grid? I don't know. This is what's so good about F1 2024. Who knows? So, that's pretty much it for the upgrades and suspicions. I imagine on Media Day on Thursday, which is in a couple of days' time, when they do, it's going to be interesting when we have the drivers' press conference and the team's press conference, and to talk about the upgrades, but also talk about these flexi wing suspicions. Anyway, if you made it to the end, give us a like. That'd be really, really appreciated. Subscribe so you never miss a video here. We do videos pretty much daily, focusing on Formula 1 and then the touring car rally with a bit of hint of gaming. We've currently got Nigel Mansell does F1 2024. I think we've done the first 5 rounds. It's never boring. It's all I can say. When Nigel Mansell is involved. We'll speak to you soon. Thank you very much.